Hey guys, tonight we're going to journey back to a world of empires and absolute power, focusing on a life that was, without exaggeration, incredibly brutal. We're going to explore the challenging existence of a Janissary in the Ottoman Empire. Forget your comfortable beds and your choices for breakfast. For these individuals, life was a relentless testament to duty, discipline, and often deadly combat. You'll be grateful for your freedom of choice after this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're listening from somewhere cozy, maybe a quiet suburb in Phoenix, Arizona, or a sprawling ranch nestled in the vast plains of Texas, go ahead and drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where you all are listening from. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You are a young boy, perhaps 7 or 8 years old, with eyes wide open to a world suddenly turned upside down. Your village, nestled in the rolling hills of the Balkans, perhaps somewhere in what is now modern-day Bosnia or Serbia, has always been your sanctuary. Your days were filled with the simple rhythms of farming, the laughter of siblings, the warmth of your mother's embrace. But one crisp autumn morning, a shadow falls over your familiar landscape. Ottoman officials, stern-faced men with exotic robes and glinting sabers, arrive. This is the devşirme's shadow call, a levy unlike any other, where the might of the Ottoman Empire reaches into Christian households to claim its youngest and strongest. This is not a choice, it is a decree, and your life, as you know it, is about to be irrevocably severed from its roots. A common historical truth is that the devşirme was a system through which the Ottoman Empire periodically conscripted Christian boys from its Balkan territories. These boys were taken from their families, converted to Islam, and rigorously trained to become elite soldiers known as Janissaries, or high-ranking administrators. This practice served as a unique method of creating a loyal military and bureaucratic class directly dependent on the Sultan, bypassing the traditional power structures of the Ottoman nobility. Your innocence, your heritage, your very identity are about to be stripped away, replaced by a new, brutal purpose. It's like being plucked from a quiet Amish farm in Pennsylvania and enrolled, against your will, in a highly disciplined military academy in a foreign land, where you're taught a new language, a new religion, and how to fight with deadly precision. And you just know your parents are never going to see you again. The separation is swift and brutal. You cling to your mother's skirts, her sobs echoing in your ears, her tear-streaked face a blur as strong hands gently but firmly pull you away. Your father, his face etched with helplessness, stands silent, his head bowed, knowing that defiance means death for his entire family. Other boys, some older, some even younger than you, are also gathered, their fear palpable in the crisp morning air. You see their wide eyes, their trembling lips, reflecting your own terror. You are just a child, yet you are now a commodity, a potential weapon for a distant empire. Your fate sealed by the decree of a powerful sultan you cannot even imagine. The journey away from your home begins, a long, arduous trek over mountains and across plains, each step taking you further from everything familiar, every memory precious. The initial journey is a blur of fear and confusion. You are marched alongside other boys, their faces a mixture of bewilderment and despair. You don't understand the language of your captors, only their stern commands and the jingle of their armor. Nights are spent in makeshift camps, cold and sleepless, haunted by the memory of your home, the smell of your mother's cooking, the sound of your father's lullabies. You cling to a faded wooden toy, a small carved bird your grandfather made, but even that comfort feels fragile, easily taken. Your identity, your name given by your parents, begins to feel like a distant echo, slowly fading with each passing mile. A fascinating, yet rarely discussed detail about the devşirme is that, while it was undeniably traumatic for the families involved, some historians argue that for a small number of boys, It could eventually offer a path to social mobility and power within the Ottoman system that would have been impossible in their Christian villages. Though this came at the immense personal cost of severing all ties to their origins and adopting a new identity. This means that in the future, if you survive, you might wield power, but it will always be on the foundation of this profound, brutal loss. Your golden cage will be built on the ruins of your childhood. Historians still widely debate the exact psychological impact of the devşirme system on the conscripted boys, and whether the process of complete cultural and religious assimilation led to profound identity crises or successful integration into Ottoman society, suggesting a wide spectrum of individual experiences that ranged from deep trauma to eventual acceptance. For you, as a terrified child on this long journey, it feels like nothing less than the end of the world you knew. Consider the job of a scribe in the Ottoman Imperial Council, meticulously recording the numbers of boys taken, the regions from which they came, the dates of their conscription. He views you as a statistic, a number on a ledger, a resource for the empire. He doesn't see your tears, your fear, your broken heart. His duty is to the Sultan, to the efficiency of the devşirme system. You are a line item, not a living, breathing child. And his detached efficiency only underscores the cold, impersonal nature of your fate. It's like being a raw material in a vast industrial complex, harvested and processed, with no regard for your individual story, only your utility. And you just know there's a quota to meet. Upon arrival in Istanbul, the glittering heart of the Ottoman Empire, you are overwhelmed. The bustling bazaars, the towering mosques, the cacophony of foreign tongues, it's a sensory assault, a world vastly different from your quiet village. Here, you undergo the ritualistic conversion to Islam, a process that formalizes your separation from your past. You are given a new name, one that erases your Christian birthright. Your head is shaved, a symbolic shedding of your old identity. You are dressed in new, simple garments, marking you as a member of this new elite class. Every detail is meticulously designed to erase the old and build the new, to mold you into a loyal servant of the Sultan. The indoctrination begins immediately. You are taught Turkish, the language of your new masters. You are taught the tenets of Islam, the prayers, the rituals, the stories of the Prophet. Your former language, your former faith, are actively suppressed, deemed irrelevant, even dangerous. You are immersed in a new culture, a new way of thinking, a new understanding of the world. It's a relentless, all-encompassing process, designed to strip away your past allegiances and instill absolute loyalty to the Sultan and the Ottoman state. You are a blank slate, ready to be written upon. You are placed in a simple Spartan school, often called an Asami Olan recruit school. Here, you live with hundreds of other boys, all like you, all taken from their homes, all undergoing the same transformation. You learn discipline, obedience, and the harsh realities of military life. Punishments are swift and severe for disobedience or failure. There is no room for softness, no time for homesickness. Your peers become your new family, bonded by shared trauma and shared purpose. You learn to rely on each other to find comfort in shared hardship, because the old ties have been severed, and there's no going back. The process is designed to create a unique kind of loyalty not to family, not to land, but directly to the Sultan. You are the Sultan's slave, but this term, in the Ottoman context, signifies a special kind of devotion and privilege, a direct connection to the imperial household. This paradox is central to your new identity. You are a slave, yet you are destined for greatness, a powerful instrument in the Sultan's hand. This total dependence on the Sultan, this complete severance from your past, ensures an unwavering loyalty unmatched by any other military force. So, as you lay your head on a hard pallet in the Asami Olan school, the unfamiliar sounds of Istanbul drifting through the night, you know your old life is gone. The gentle rhythms of your village, the familiar faces of your family, they are now just fading memories, replaced by the stark, demanding reality of your new existence. The devşirme's shadow call has been answered, and your brutal journey as a Janissary has just begun. In the formidable, unforgiving machinery of the Ottoman Empire, this forced rebirth truly sucked you, the young boy, now given the new name of Ahmed, have begun your arduous journey into the heart of the Ottoman Empire, severed from your past. The initial shock of separation is slowly giving way to the cold, hard reality of your new life. You are no longer just a frightened child, you are a raw recruit, a blank canvas upon which the Sultan's will shall be etched. This is the forge of the Sultan's sword, a relentless, unforgiving training regimen designed to strip away every vestige of your former identity and transform you into an elite, disciplined, and utterly loyal fighting machine. A Janissary. The very blade of the Ottoman Empire. A common historical truth is that upon their conscription through the devşirme, boys were not immediately sent to battle. Instead, they underwent a prolonged and intensive period of training, often spanning several years, in special Asimi Olan recruit schools. This training focused not only on military drills and weaponry, but also on physical conditioning, religious instruction, and complete cultural assimilation, molding them into devoted servants of the Sultan and the state, loyal only to him. You are about to be shaped, pounded, and sharpened, like steel in a blacksmith's fire, until you become a weapon, utterly devoid of personal will, yet incredibly potent. It's like being sent to the most rigorous, no-nonsense military boarding school you can imagine, where every minute of your day is meticulously planned. And disobedience isn't just frowned upon, it's practically a capital offense. And your personal motto is now, Sultan first, everything else never. The first phase of your training is physical, brutally so. You are roused before dawn, the call to prayer echoing through the barracks, and your body is immediately put to the test. Endless drills, running through rough terrain, carrying heavy loads, practicing wrestling and unarmed combat. Your muscles, once soft from a life of farming, ache with an intensity you've never known. Every fiber of your being is pushed to its absolute limit, then beyond. The instructors, grizzled veterans with no patience for weakness, bark commands in a language that is slowly, grudgingly, becoming your own. A misstep, a moment of hesitation, brings a sharp crack of a whip or a swift, stinging blow. There's no comfort, no respite, only the relentless pursuit of physical perfection. Your body becomes an instrument, honed and hardened, stripped of its childish softness. You learn to ignore the pain, to push past exhaustion, to respond instantly to commands. It's like attending an extreme fitness boot camp run by drill sergeants who believe in tough love, as long as it involves pain and very little love. And your personal trainer is a former Special Forces operative who communicates primarily through guttural shouts. Beyond physical prowess, you are taught discipline. Absolute, unquestioning obedience is paramount. You learn to march in perfect formation, to follow orders without hesitation, to move as one with your fellow recruits. Individualism is purged, replaced by a collective identity. You eat, sleep, train, and even breathe as a unit. This rigid discipline is not just about order, it's about breaking down your former self, erasing the independent spirit of the village boy and replacing it with the unyielding will of a loyal soldier. You learn that your life is no longer your own. It belongs to the Sultan, to the Empire. A fascinating, yet rarely discussed detail about Janissary training is that while physical and military training was crucial, a significant emphasis was also placed on intellectual development and religious instruction. Many Janissaries were taught to read and write, and they received extensive education in Islamic theology, law, and history. This intellectual rigor aimed to create not just strong warriors, but intelligent, loyal servants capable of administration and leadership. This means your transformation isn't just about brawn, it's about brain too, making you a multifaceted instrument of imperial power. You're not just a soldier, you're a scholar warrior, which sounds pretty impressive until you remember you were forced into it. Historians still widely debate the extent to which the Janissaries truly internalized their new Islamic faith and Ottoman identity versus retaining elements of their Christian origins, and how this internal conflict, if it existed, might have impacted their loyalty or psychological well-being, suggesting a complex inner world beneath the disciplined exterior. For you, as Ahmed, the old gods and traditions slowly recede, replaced by the powerful, unifying tenets of Islam, though whispers of your past might occasionally haunt your dreams. Consider the job of a seasoned Ottoman calligrapher, painstakingly copying verses from the Quran, creating intricate, beautiful texts. He works in a quiet, serene environment, his hands stained with ink, his mind focused on divine words. He represents the spiritual and intellectual heart of the empire. You, on the other hand, are learning about the glory of God through the harsh realities of military life, through the discipline of prayer and the study of military strategy. Your ink is sweat. Your pages are the drill grounds, and your words are the commands that shape you into a weapon. You are two sides of the same imperial coin, one representing quiet devotion, the other brutal might. It's like being a talented classical musician, while someone else is learning the science of demolitions to create a new kind of explosive symphony, and your only instrument is a musket. Your diet is simple but designed to fuel your demanding training, primarily grains, vegetables, and sometimes meat. There are no luxuries, no indulgences. Every meal is purposeful, a means to an end to build strength, to maintain stamina. You learn to appreciate every morsel, to waste nothing. The very act of eating becomes a discipline, a quiet obedience to the needs of your body and the demands of your training. As your physical transformation progresses, so does your mastery of weaponry. You learn to wield the scimitar, its curved blade a natural extension of your arm. You practice with bows, learning to send arrows flying with deadly accuracy. Most importantly, you are introduced to the arquebus, the early firearm, its thunderous roar, its heavy recoil, its potential for devastating power. This is the future of warfare, and you, the Janissary, are at its cutting edge. Hours are spent cleaning, loading, and firing, becoming intimately familiar with the mechanism of destruction. The smell of gunpowder becomes a strangely comforting scent, a symbol of your growing power. The training instills a deep sense of brotherhood, of Okak hearth, Cossack corps. These other boys, torn from their own homes, are now your only family. You suffer together. You triumph together. You learn to trust each other with your lives. This bond, forged in the crucible of shared hardship, becomes incredibly powerful. You are no longer Serbs or Bosnians or Greeks. You are Janissaries, bound by an unbreakable loyalty to each other and to the Sultan. This new identity, this fierce camaraderie, fills the void left by your severed past, providing a new sense of belonging. Yet there are moments, in the quiet darkness of night, when the old memories resurface, a forgotten lullaby, the scent of your mother's cooking, the gentle touch of your sister's hand. These fleeting ghosts of your past are quickly banished by the harsh realities of your new life, by the discipline that has become second nature. You learn to suppress them, to push them deep down, knowing that any attachment to your former self is a weakness, a betrayal of your new purpose. This internal battle, this constant struggle to erase who you once were, is perhaps the most brutal part of your training. So, as you stand in perfect formation, your new uniform crisp, your musket held steady, your eyes fixed on your instructor, you are no longer the frightened boy torn from his home. You are Ahmed, a Janissary recruit, forged in the relentless fires of discipline, drilled to perfection, a nascent instrument of the Sultan's will. The forge of the Sultan's sword has done its work, leaving behind a hardened, loyal weapon, ready for battle. And in the formidable, all-consuming machinery of the Ottoman Empire, this brutal transformation truly sucked. You, Ahmed, the young Janissary recruit, have survived the brutal devşirme and the unforgiving forge of your training. Your body is hardened, your mind disciplined, your loyalty to the Sultan absolute. Now, you enter the next phase of your existence life in the barracks embrace. This isn't just about living quarters. It's a total immersion in the highly structured, communal, and often austere daily routine of the Janissary Corps, a system designed to further erode individual identity and solidify your role as a cog in the Sultan's mighty war machine. A common historical truth is that Janissaries lived under extremely strict discipline within dedicated barracks, known as orta. Their lives were highly regimented, with every aspect, from daily prayers and training to meals and leisure, strictly controlled. This communal living and constant supervision reinforced their unique identity as the Sultan's slaves and ensured their unwavering loyalty, effectively stripping them of personal possessions, family ties, and individual aspirations in favor of the collective. You are now part of a living, breathing military organism, and your individual desires are simply irrelevant. It's like joining a highly exclusive, super disciplined monastic order, but instead of prayer and meditation, your main focus is on military drills and absolute obedience. And you just know personal space is just a theoretical concept here. Your days begin before the first blush of dawn, signaled by the insistent, piercing call to prayer. You rise from your hard pallet, one of hundreds, perhaps thousands, of men sleeping side by side in the vast, unadorned barracks. The air is thick with the scent of unwashed bodies, stale food, and the ever-present faint aroma of gunpowder. There's no time for quiet reflection or personal grooming. Every movement is efficient, precise, part of a larger, synchronized ballet of military discipline. You quickly perform your ablutions, then join your Oda company for morning prayers, your voice blending with hundreds of others, a unified chorus directed towards Mecca. This collective ritual reinforces your new identity, your shared faith, your unwavering purpose. It's like being in a massive, highly efficient factory where every worker performs their task with robotic precision. And even bathroom breaks are timed. And you just know there's an efficiency expert watching you. After prayers, the relentless training begins again. Hours are spent drilling in the vast courtyards of the barracks. You practice with your musket, loading and firing in precise volleys, the thunderous roar echoing off the stone walls. You hone your skills with the scimitar, perfecting your thrusts and parries against imaginary foes. You engage in wrestling and hand-to-hand combat, your body becoming a finely tuned instrument of war. Every movement is designed for efficiency, for lethal effectiveness. There's no room for artistic flair, no time for personal expression, only the cold, hard logic of combat. A fascinating, yet rarely discussed, detail about Janissary training and life is that while famous for their use of firearms, Janissaries were also highly skilled in traditional close-quarter combat, with swords, axes, and daggers. Their training emphasized versatility and adaptability, ensuring they were formidable fighters whether in a siege or an open field battle, often blending innovation with traditional martial arts. This means you're not just a musket wielder, you're a walking, breathing arsenal, capable of dealing death in a variety of brutal ways. You're basically the special forces of the 15th century, but with much less comfortable gear. Historians still widely debate the extent to which Janissaries developed genuine emotional bonds of brotherhood okak within their barracks beyond mere military camaraderie, and how this unique social structure impacted their psychological well-being and loyalty to the Sultan versus their immediate peers, suggesting a complex interplay between forced allegiance and genuine human connection. For you, as Ahmed, these bonds are very real, a crucial lifeline in a world stripped of personal ties, forging a new, intense family born of shared hardship and absolute dependence. Consider the job of an architect in Istanbul, designing grand mosques and palaces with intricate details and soaring domes. His work is about beauty, about creation, about leaving a lasting physical legacy. Your work, however, is about destruction, about order, about discipline. You are a living brick in the Sultan's fortress, a weapon of his will, not a creator of beauty. His life is one of quiet contemplation and artistic expression. Yours is one of constant exertion and rigid adherence to military protocol. You build nothing tangible. You are the foundation upon which the empire's power rests. It's like being a highly skilled, incredibly disciplined robot on an assembly line that builds the actual robots. But you're still a robot, just with a lot more muscle memory. And you probably don't get weekends off. Food is eaten communally, usually a simple meal of porridge, bread, and perhaps some dried meat or vegetables. Consumed in silence or with hushed conversation. There are no individual portions, no personal preferences. Everything is shared, reinforcing the collective nature of your existence. Even your personal possessions are minimal: a few spare clothes, your weapons, a prayer mat. Anything more is deemed an unnecessary distraction, a potential attachment that could weaken your loyalty to the core and to the Sultan. You are taught to live simply, to desire little beyond what is provided, to find satisfaction in duty, not in material comfort. Leisure time, though scarce, is also structured. You might gather with your Oda for storytelling, listening to tales of past Janissary glories, reinforcing the history and pride of the core. You might practice calligraphy or engage in intellectual discussions. For many, Janissaries were highly educated, but even these activities serve a purpose to refine your mind, to deepen your understanding of the empire, to strengthen your loyalty. There is no true idleness, no wasteful pursuit of personal pleasure that doesn't ultimately benefit the Sultan. The ultimate goal of this barracks life is to create an unbreakable bond with the Sultan. You are taught that he is your father, your provider, your only true master, your former family, your old life. Your very name they are deliberately erased, replaced by this singular, all-consuming devotion. This complete dependence, combined with the rigorous training and shared experience, produces a fighting force unparalleled in its discipline and loyalty. A machine of war that acts as one, driven by a single unwavering purpose. Despite the harshness, a strange sense of comfort settles upon you. The rigid routine, the clear expectations, the absolute certainty of your purpose. It creates a predictable world, a refuge from the chaotic uncertainties of civilian life. The brotherhood you share with your fellow Janissaries is genuine, a deep bond forged in shared hardship and mutual reliance. You are not alone. You are part of an elite, respected core, a vital instrument in the most powerful empire in the world. This identity, carved from sacrifice, becomes your new anchor. Yet, in the deepest part of your being, in the quiet moments before sleep claims you, whispers of your past sometimes surface. A flicker of a memory, a half-forgotten song from your village, the warmth of your mother's hand. These are quickly suppressed, pushed back into the furthest reaches of your mind. You have been too thoroughly molded, too completely transformed. The individual boy you once were is gone, replaced by Ahmed, the loyal Janissary, a silent, obedient blade in the Sultan's hand. So, as the last light fades from the barracks and the sounds of hundreds of sleeping men fill the vast hall, you are enveloped by the barracks' embrace. This strict communal existence has become your new reality, stripping away your personal identity and reshaping you into a living weapon. And in the formidable, all-consuming machinery of the Ottoman Empire, this disciplined existence, while providing purpose, truly sucked the very essence of individuality from your soul. You, Ahmed, the Janissary, are no longer a mere recruit. Your training is complete, your loyalty forged, your identity irrevocably tied to the Sultan and the Okak. Now, you face the very reason for your existence echoes of holy war. This isn't about drills or discipline. It's the brutal, visceral reality of combat. The endless campaigns across vast empires, and the horrifying face of death that becomes your constant companion. Your purpose is now to wield the Sultan's sword, to expand his domains, and to enforce his will through fire and steel. A common historical truth is that the Janissaries were the elite infantry of the Ottoman Empire, playing a pivotal role in its numerous military campaigns across Europe, Asia, and Africa. They were often deployed as shock troops, renowned for their discipline, use of firearms, and unwavering courage. Their lives were defined by constant warfare, sieges, and battles, pushing the boundaries of the empire and facing formidable enemies. You are now a living instrument of conquest, your life measured in sieges conquered and enemies vanquished. It's like being a highly specialized combat drone, programmed for one-purpose war, but you're made of flesh and bone, and every impact, every injury is acutely felt. And you just know your performance metrics are literally measured in blood. The call to campaign is sudden, echoing through the barracks like a thunderclap. You pack your meager possessions, your musket, your scimitar, a few spare clothes, a prayer mat, the vast Ottoman army, a terrifying force of tens of thousands, perhaps even hundreds of thousands, assembles. You are but one among them. Yet as a Janissary, you occupy a place of immense respect and fear. The march begins, a grueling, relentless trek across unforgiving landscapes. You cross vast plains, ford mighty rivers, and ascend towering mountains. Dust chokes your throat in summer, mud clings to your boots in spring, the sun bakes your skin, the wind whips at your clothes, and the cold bites deep into your bones. Every day is a test of endurance, your body pushed to its limits by the sheer scale of the imperial war machine. It's like joining a grueling cross-country expedition, but instead of hiking for pleasure, you're marching towards a brutal, uncertain conflict, and your backpack is filled with heavy weaponry. And you just know there's no gourmet trail mix for morale. The sight of the enemy is often the prelude to unimaginable chaos. Whether it's the gleaming armor of European knights, the swift cavalry of the Mamluks, or the determined resistance of rebellious peasants, each encounter is a desperate struggle for survival. As a Janissary, you're often positioned at the forefront, the first to engage, absorbing the initial shock of the enemy's charge. The air fills with the clang of steel, the roar of cannon, the screams of the dying, the smell of gunpowder. Once a familiar comfort, now mingles with the stench of blood and sweat. Your training takes over. Your movement's automatic, precise, lethal. You load and fire your musket with practiced efficiency, its smoke momentarily obscuring your vision before you unleash another volley. When the lines clash, you draw your scimitar, engaging in desperate close-quarters combat, where every swing is a choice between life and death. A fascinating, yet rarely discussed detail about Janissary combat tactics is that they were among the earliest infantry forces to effectively use massed volleys of arquebus fire, combining their disciplined marksmanship with a rapid reloading technique. This innovative approach to gunpowder warfare often gave them a decisive advantage over European armies that still relied heavily on pikes and cavalry, fundamentally changing the nature of battlefields. This means you are part of a tactical revolution, a living testament to the destructive power of organized firepower. You are basically a walking, talking, highly efficient turret, but with far more grit. Historians still widely debate the extent to which Janissaries suffered from long-term psychological trauma, akin to modern PTSD, due to their constant exposure to brutal warfare, and how they coped with the horrors they witnessed and inflicted, suggesting a profound and often hidden cost to their relentless military service. For you, as Ahmed, the screams of the wounded, the faces of the dying, the sheer brutality of war, they etch themselves onto your soul, leaving indelible scars that no victory can erase. Consider the job of a wealthy spice merchant in Alexandria. His hands soft from counting coins, his days filled with negotiating prices and overseeing exotic cargo. He lives a life of comfort and trade, far removed from the brutal realities of imperial expansion. He benefits from the stability and safety that your campaigns provide, but he knows nothing of the fear, the exhaustion, the bloodshed. He thrives on peace, you thrive on war. His prosperity is built on your sacrifices, a stark, silent contrast between the luxury of the empire's heart and the grim reality of its cutting edge. It's like being a high-flying stockbroker in New York City, while someone else is fighting in a war zone to secure the very resources that make your investments profitable. And you just know he complains about slow internet while you're dodging arrows. Siege warfare is a test of patience, endurance, and extreme violence. You might spend months outside a fortified city, enduring brutal weather, constant skirmishes, and the ever-present threat of disease. You participate in the construction of siege engines, the digging of tunnels, the assaults on breached walls. The sheer scale of destruction, the desperate resistance of the besieged, the cries of their dying, it's a terrifying spectacle. When the city finally falls, the plunder is often immense, a temporary reward for the unspeakable horrors you have witnessed and inflicted. But the spoils, no matter how rich, cannot erase the images burned into your memory. Your body becomes a canvas of scars. A deep cut from a polearm on your arm, a jagged scar from a falling rock during a siege, the persistent ache in your leg from a forced march through an icy pass. These are the physical markers of your service, badges of grim honor. You learn to ignore them, to push through the pain, for there is no time for weakness on the battlefield. You witness comrades fall beside you, their lives extinguished in an instant, and you know that your own death could come at any moment, from any direction. This constant proximity to death fosters a grim acceptance, a fatalistic outlook that helps you push through the fear. The campaigns take you far from Istanbul, across vast, diverse landscapes. You might fight in the sweltering deserts of Arabia, the fertile plains of Hungary, or the rocky coasts of the Mediterranean. Each new land brings new enemies, new challenges, and new horrors. You see cities burned, populations displaced, empires crumble. You are an agent of this immense transformation, a tool in the Sultan's hand, carving out an empire with your musket and scimitar. The scale of the violence, but the sheer number of lives affected by your actions, is immense. A silent testament to the Ottoman Empire's terrifying power. After a successful campaign, the return to Istanbul is a temporary reprieve. You parade through the streets, laden with spoils, the cheers of the populace echoing in your ears. You are a hero, a defender of the faith, a living symbol of Ottoman might. But the quiet moments in the barracks, the nights spent staring at the ceiling, are often filled with the ghosts of battles past, the echoes of the screams that refuse to fade. The external glory cannot erase the internal scars. You try to forget, to push the horrors down, but they linger, always present, a constant reminder of the brutal cost of victory. So, as the distant shouts of a victorious battle fade, and the smoke from burning villages drifts across the ravaged landscape, you stand, your musket still warm from its last volley, your scimitar still slick with the blood of your enemies. The echoes of holy war reverberate through your very being, forever changing you. Your purpose as a Janissary is fulfilled, but the price is etched onto your soul in the brutal, relentless machinery of the Ottoman Empire. This life of constant combat truly sucked. You, Ahmed, the Janissary, are now a seasoned veteran. Your life a tapestry woven with threads of brutal campaigns and relentless discipline. But amidst the clamor of war and the rigid structure of the barracks, there's a profound silence, a stark absence that permeates your very being, the chains of celibacy. This isn't just about a lack of personal relationships. It's the fundamental denial of a family, of progeny, of a lineage to carry your name, a forced isolation that creates a unique and often agonizing void in your life, binding you perpetually to the Sultan. A common historical truth is that Janissaries were strictly forbidden from marrying or having children during their active service, especially in the earlier periods of the Corps' history. This policy was crucial for maintaining their undivided loyalty to the Sultan and preventing the formation of hereditary power bases that could challenge imperial authority. It ensured their focus remained solely on military duty and the state. You are an instrument, not a family man. Your loyalty must be absolute, unburdened by the softer ties that might divert your devotion. It's like being a highly specialized piece of military hardware that's never allowed to leave the factory, let alone form connections with anything beyond its operational parameters. And you just know there's no bring your child to work day in the barracks. As a young recruit, the prohibition seemed distant, abstract, overshadowed by the intense demands of training. But as you age, as you witness the lives of others outside the Corps, the merchants with their bustling families, the farmers with their children playing in the fields, even the Ottoman noblemen with their numerous wives and offspring, the weight of this rule presses down on you. You see the natural progression of life, the cycle of generations, and you realize you are outside it, an anomaly. There will be no child to carry your name, no son to teach the art of the musket, no daughter to whisper stories to. Your lineage, the very idea of a future beyond your own lifespan, ends with you. The barracks, your home for decades, are devoid of the sounds of domestic life. There are no infant cries, no children's laughter, no arguments between husband and wife. The atmosphere is purely masculine, dominated by the rituals of war and the camaraderie of soldiers. While this fosters an intense brotherhood among the Janissaries, it also creates an echo chamber, a world insulated from the softer, more nurturing aspects of human existence. You are a warrior, complete in yourself, meant only for the Sultan's service, not for the messy, beautiful complexities of family life. A fascinating, yet rarely discussed, detail about Janissary social life is that, despite the strict celibacy rule, many Janissaries formed strong, albeit non-familial, bonds with each other within their orda companies. These brotherhoods often functioned as surrogate families, providing emotional support, loyalty, and a sense of belonging that partially filled the void left by the absence of traditional family structures. This means you find solace in these fraternal bonds, but they are still a stark contrast to the warmth and intimacy of a true family unit. It's like being part of a really tight-knit fraternity, where everyone's got your back, but you still occasionally wonder what it's like to have a mom who isn't a drill sergeant. Historians still widely debate the extent to which the celibacy rule was strictly enforced throughout the entire history of the Janissary Corps, and whether it began to erode in later centuries as the Corps evolved and gained more political power, suggesting that the experience of personal life could have varied over time for different Janissaries. For you, Ahmed, in your prime, the rule is absolute, an unyielding chain binding you to your duty. Consider the job of a rural imam, leading prayers in a small village mosque. His life is intertwined with his community, his family, the generations he guides. He counsels young couples, performs marriages, blesses newborns. His days are filled with the sounds of children, the warmth of domesticity, the continuity of family life. You, on the other hand, live a life entirely detached from these fundamental human experiences. Your prayers are for victory, not for fertility. Your counsel is for battle, not for family disputes. The imam's life is one of nurturing and continuity. Yours is one of disciplined severance. It's like being a monastic warrior monk, watching a bustling family barbecue from a distance, understanding the joy but never being able to participate. And you just know their potluck dishes are probably way better than barracks food. The emotional toll of this celibacy is insidious. You witness moments of tender affection between a father and child in the villages you pass through, or the quiet devotion between a husband and wife. These fleeting glimpses of normalcy, of a life you are forbidden to have, stir a quiet longing within you. You might push it down, tell yourself it's a weakness, a distraction from your duty, but the human heart yearns for connection, for belonging, for a future beyond itself. This constant suppression of natural human desires takes its toll, contributing to a quiet melancholy that permeates your being. The lack of an heir means that your personal legacy, outside of your military deeds, Glasmoy, will cease with you. There will be no one to inherit your meager possessions, no one to carry on your memory in the intimate circle of family. Your name, though perhaps feared on the battlefield, will not be whispered in a cradle. This absence of continuation is a profound void, a silent testament to the ultimate sacrifice you have made for the Sultan. Not just your life, but your future. As the years pass, the opportunities for personal relationships diminish further. You are defined by your uniform, your discipline, your status as a Janissary. Women in the villages might regard you with fear, or perhaps fleeting admiration, but never with the easy familiarity that could lead to a domestic life. You are separate, distinct, forever set apart by the chains of your oath. Your identity as a warrior is all-consuming, leaving no room for the gentler, more intimate aspects of human connection. Sometimes, in the quiet of a victorious night, after the fury of battle has subsided, you might observe your fellow Janissaries. Perhaps some, like you, gaze wistfully at a distant campfire where a family huddles together. Others might seek fleeting comfort in transient encounters. But these are empty echoes of true connection, quickly forgotten in the harsh light of dawn and the demands of duty. The unspoken longing, the shared emptiness, forms another layer of the unique brotherhood that binds you. You are all in the same boat, sailing the same lonely sea of celibacy. The Okak hearth Kama's Korpa becomes your entire world. Its rituals are your family traditions, its victories your shared triumphs, its losses your collective sorrows. Your superiors are your surrogate fathers, your peers your brothers. This system is designed to channel all your loyalty, all your ambition, all your human need for belonging, directly into the military structure. It's incredibly effective, creating an unparalleled fighting force, but it does so at an immense personal cost, stripping you of a fundamental aspect of human existence. So, as another night falls over the desolate encampment, or the quiet hum of the barracks fills the air, you lie on your pallet, a profound silence settling within you. The chains of celibacy bind you not with iron, but with the invisible threads of a future unlived, a family unborn. Your devotion to the Sultan is absolute, but the cost is a quiet, aching void in your soul, a personal sacrifice that truly sucked the warmth and continuity of family life from your existence. You, Ahmed, the Janissary, have endured the brutal forge of training, the relentless campaigns, and the profound void of a life without family. Your body carries the scars of empire, your mind the echoes of holy war. Now, as your years of service accumulate, a new, complex layer to your existence emerges, whispers of power and peril. This isn't just about fighting battles. It's about navigating the treacherous currents of court politics, the delicate balance of imperial favor, and the ever-present danger that your immense power, once a shield, can swiftly become the very instrument of your downfall. A common historical truth is that while Janissaries were the Sultan's loyal slaves, their collective power grew immensely over centuries. They became not just soldiers, but a formidable political force, capable of influencing succession, staging revolts, and even deposing sultans who lost their favor. This dual role as elite military and political kingmakers brought them significant privileges and influence, but also exposed them to extreme dangers, as their actions could either elevate them or lead to their swift and brutal demise. You are no longer just a blade, you are a lever, capable of moving mountains, but also easily snapped if misused. It's like being a highly specialized, incredibly powerful Secret Service agent, but you also have the ability to influence presidential elections, making you both indispensable and incredibly dangerous. And you just know every promotion comes with a much bigger target on your back. As a seasoned Janissary, your influence is subtle, yet undeniable. You observe the comings and goings at the Topkapi Palace, the whispers in the barracks, the shifting loyalties among the viziers and pashas. You see the young, ambitious princes jockeying for position, each one eager to secure the loyalty of the Janissary corps, knowing that their very succession might depend on it. You recall the stories, perhaps even witnessed, a sultan who pushed the Janissaries too far, who tried to curb their privileges or ignore their demands. The outcome was always swift and bloody riots in Istanbul, the roar of an enraged Okak, and a new sultan on the throne. This knowledge, this collective memory of power, flows through the veins of every Janissary, a silent understanding that you are not merely servants, but the ultimate arbiters of imperial authority. Your unique position grants you privileges denied to most others in the empire. You receive regular pay, often better than other soldiers. You are exempt from certain taxes. You have access to the best training, the best equipment, and often direct access to the highest echelons of power. You might be chosen for special missions, for guard duty within the palace itself, putting you in close proximity to the Sultan and his inner circle. This proximity offers opportunities for advancement, for favor, but also for observation, for understanding the intricate dance of court politics. You see the jealousies, the betrayals, the endless machinations for power, a fascinating yet rarely discussed detail about Janissary power is that they were crucial in maintaining internal stability within the Ottoman Empire, suppressing rebellions and enforcing the Sultan's decrees. Their discipline and effectiveness in putting down internal threats often further solidified their political leverage. As the Sultan became increasingly reliant on them, not just for external conquest, but for domestic control. This means you're not just an external weapon. You're an internal police force, making you a vital and often feared presence in the very heart of the empire, which only adds to your leverage. You're basically the emperor's Praetorian Guard, but with more muskets and even less patience for insubordination. Historians still widely debate the precise tipping point at which the Janissaries transitioned from being solely loyal, obedient soldiers to becoming a powerful, often disruptive, political force, and whether this shift was an inevitable consequence of their unique status, or a result of specific political circumstances and weak sultans, suggesting a long, complex evolution of their internal power dynamics. For you, Ahmed, you simply live within this reality, a player in a dangerous game whether you desire it or not. Consider the job of a humble palace gardener, meticulously tending to the Sultan's exquisite rose gardens, his hands stained with soil, his days filled with quiet, methodical labor. He represents the beauty and serenity of the imperial court, a stark contrast to the raw power you embody. He sees the coming and going of dignitaries, the silent processions of the powerful, but he is utterly detached from the intricate web of political intrigue. His world is one of blooming flowers and green leaves. Yours is one of steel, strategy, and the ever-present threat of a political misstep. He lives a life of beautiful obscurity. You live a life of dangerous prominence. It's like being a quiet background artist painting a beautiful mural, while someone else is the main character in a deadly, high-stakes political thriller. And you just know the gardener has better job security. The peril of your power is ever present. One wrong move, one perceived slight to the Sultan, one miscalculation in a political upheaval, and your life, or even the lives of your entire Okak, could be forfeit. Sultans, when they felt their power threatened, were ruthless in crushing dissent within the Janissary ranks. You hear stories of purges, of barracks being surrounded and their inhabitants executed, of leaders of rebellions being publicly impaled. The very favor that elevates you can, in an instant, turn into a deadly weapon wielded against you. This creates a constant, low-level anxiety, a need for vigilance, for keen observation, for understanding the subtle currents of power. Your influence extends beyond the battlefield and the barracks. In Istanbul, your presence is felt. Shopkeepers often grant Janissaries unspoken privileges, fearing their collective wrath. The populace treats you with a mixture of respect and apprehension. You are a symbol of Ottoman strength, but also a reminder of the Sultan's absolute authority, an authority you help to enforce. You see the world through the eyes of power, a vantage point few others experience. This perspective, however, also reveals the darker side of imperial rule, the corruption, the injustice, the quiet suffering beneath the grand facade. As you age, your role might shift from frontline combat to leadership within your okak, or even to administrative positions within the core or the wider imperial bureaucracy. Your experience, your knowledge of military affairs, your proven loyalty, these become valuable assets. You might find yourself advising a young prince, or overseeing logistics for a new campaign. This transition brings a different kind of power, a power of influence and decision-making. But it also elevates your profile, making you a bigger target in the treacherous game of court politics. The internal politics of the Janissary Corps itself are also complex. There are rivalries between different odas, competition for prestigious assignments, and the constant maneuvering for promotion. You must navigate these internal dynamics with caution, ensuring you do not make enemies within your own ranks. For a Janissary's greatest strength, his brotherhood, could also turn into his most potent weakness if fractured. Loyalty within the core is paramount, and any perceived betrayal is met with swift, brutal consequences. So, as you walk the hallowed halls of the Topkapi Palace, or stand guard over a critical imperial council, you feel the intoxicating hum of power that surrounds you. But beneath that power lies a constant, gnawing sense of peril. The knowledge that your privileged position is as fragile as a breath in the winter air. The whispers of power and peril are a constant companion, a terrifying reminder that your retirement plan might involve not a quiet end, but a sudden, violent demise orchestrated by the very system you serve. A dangerous reality that truly sucked the last vestiges of true security from your life. You, Ahmed, the Janissary, are a veteran of countless battles, a silent participant in the treacherous dance of imperial politics. But beneath the uniform, beneath the hardened exterior, your body tells a different story, the scars of empire. This isn't just about the occasional wound, it's the cumulative, agonizing toll that decades of brutal warfare, relentless physical exertion, and a complete lack of modern medical care have exacted on your flesh and bone, leaving you a living testament to the brutal cost of the Sultan's conquest. A common historical truth is that the life of a soldier in the Ottoman Empire, particularly a Janissary who was constantly on campaign, was incredibly harsh on the body. Primitive medical knowledge, constant exposure to the elements, lack of proper hygiene, and the sheer physicality of combat meant that injuries, chronic pain, and debilitating diseases were commonplace. Many Janissaries would have suffered from long-term ailments that severely impacted their quality of life as they aged, even if they survived battle. Your body is a map of every siege, every march, every clash of steel, and each line on that map screams with a persistent, dull ache. It's like being a professional athlete from an era before sports medicine, where every injury was just walk it off, and every ache was just part of the game. And you just know your knees are sending you angry, passive-aggressive letters about their impending retirement. You wake each morning, not to the refreshing embrace of sleep, but to the immediate sharp awareness of your physical decline. Your back, perpetually hunched from carrying heavy muskets and marching for endless miles, protest with a searing pain that never truly subsides. Your knees, battered by countless forced marches over rocky terrain and the relentless pounding of battle. Crack and pop with every attempt to stand, a chorus of protest from overworked joints. The old arrow wound in your shoulder, sustained decades ago during a particularly brutal skirmish in Hungary, throbs persistently in damp weather, a deep, bone-aching cold that seeps into your very marrow. You try to push yourself up from your pallet, but your muscles, once coiled steel, are now stiff and unresponsive, like old leather left too long in the sun. It's like trying to run a marathon on a body that feels like it's held together with rusty nails and frayed rope. And your internal monologue is just a series of involuntary groans. Your hands, once capable of reloading a musket with blinding speed or wielding a scimitar with deadly precision, now tremble uncontrollably, particularly in the biting cold of winter. The calluses that once armored your palms are now cracked and painfully dry, constantly reminding you of the endless manual labor they've endured. From digging trenches to hauling provisions, scars, thick and discolored, crisscross your skin a deep gash on your forearm from a European pike, a jagged mark on your cheek from a flying shard of rock during a siege. Each one is a grim testament to a moment of extreme peril, a lifetime of violence etched onto your very being. Simple tasks, like tying a knot or carefully cleaning your musket, now demand intense concentration, your fingers fumbling, your strength diminished. A fascinating, yet rarely discussed detail about pre-modern combat medicine is that while Ottoman military hospitals called Darüşşifa existed and had skilled surgeons, their practices were rudimentary by modern standards. Infections were rampant due to a lack of understanding of hygiene, and severe wounds often led to amputation or death by sepsis. Even if a wound didn't kill you, it could leave you permanently crippled, making every injury a potential lifelong burden. This means that surviving a battle was only the first step. The battle against infection and chronic pain often continued for the rest of your life. You are a walking, breathing monument to the limitations of ancient medicine. Historians still widely debate the specific long-term health outcomes for veteran Janissaries and whether conditions akin to modern chronic fatigue syndrome or fibromyalgia, perhaps exacerbated by malnutrition and constant stress, were widespread among them, suggesting that their suffering extended far beyond visible injuries to encompass systemic bodily breakdown. For you, Ahmed, your body feels less like a temple and more like a crumbling fortress, under constant siege from within. Consider the job of a young, vibrant palace guard, standing tall and straight at the Sultan's gate, his uniform pristine, his musket gleaming. His body is unmarred by the scars of war, his movements fluid and strong. He represents the ideal of Janissary strength and youth, everything you once were. He watches you, perhaps with a flicker of respect for your past service, but also with a subtle, unspoken pity for your current infirmity. You are a stark reminder of the future he might face, a future of pain and decline. It's like being a seasoned, retired football player trying to coach a young, healthy rookie who can effortlessly run sprints, while you can barely jog across the room. And you just know the rookie thinks your war stories are probably exaggerated because his body doesn't hurt. Beyond the physical aches, there's the relentless, insidious presence of chronic pain. It's a dull throb that settles deep in your joints during the long, cold nights, escalating to a sharp, burning agony with any sudden movement. It whispers to you constantly, making every step a conscious effort, every task a battle. It gnaws at your patience, makes you irritable, and pushes you further into yourself, as explaining the ceaseless agony feels futile and makes you seem weak. You learn to live with it, to compartmentalize it, but it never truly leaves you. And then there are the invisible scars. The psychological wounds carved by a lifetime of violence and trauma. The screams of the dying, the terrified faces of defeated enemies, the sickening crunch of bones in close combat. These memories replay in your mind, particularly in the quiet darkness of night. You might suffer from disturbed sleep, vivid nightmares that drag you back to the battlefield, or a pervasive anxiety that gnaws at your peace. The relentless stress of constant peril, the weight of command, the grim necessity of atrocities committed. These have carved deep furrows in your psyche, leaving you with a haunted, weary spirit that knows no true rest. It's like having a mental highlight reel that only plays the most disturbing scenes on repeat, with no skip button. The harsh environment itself continues to take its toll. The bitter winds of Anatolia in winter, the suffocating heat of the Syrian desert, the damp cold of European sieges. Decades of constant exposure have weathered your body like an ancient oak, leaving your skin rough, your eyes tired, and your hair prematurely white. You feel the cold in your bones now, a deeper chill that no amount of fire can entirely banish. The world, once a challenging arena for your conquests, is now a relentless adversary, constantly reminding you of your physical limitations. This profound physical and mental suffering also impacts your social life. You find yourself struggling to attend communal gatherings, to sit comfortably for long feasts, or even to engage in casual conversation without the distraction of a throbbing joint or a racing thought. Your discomfort makes you withdraw, contributing further to your isolation. People observe your physical struggles, and while some might offer a fleeting moment of pity, most simply adapt to your limitations, subtly excluding you from activities that demand strength or endurance. You are a living reminder of what happens when the body fails, and most prefer not to dwell on such grim realities. So, as the last rays of the setting sun cast long shadows across your weary face, illuminating the lines of pain etched around your eyes, you feel the profound weight of the scars of empire. Your body, a testament to a life of brutal service, is now your prison. Each ache, each tremor, a constant reminder of the price of glory. Your retirement plan is not a peaceful rest. It's a slow, agonizing descent into chronic pain and debilitating infirmity. A physical and mental torment that truly sucked the last vestiges of comfort from your long, weary existence. You, Ahmed, the Janissary, are now living with the physical and psychological toll of a brutal life. Your body, a testament to the empire's relentless expansion. But as the physical world around you grows dim, another, more insidious torment asserts itself, the golden cage of retirement. This isn't about fading glory. It's the profound, agonizing experience of being cast aside by the very system you served with absolute loyalty. A life without purpose. A golden cage of enforced idleness that leaves you adrift in a world you no longer recognize. A relic of a bygone era. A common historical truth is that Janissaries, unlike most other soldiers of their time, were eventually granted the right to retire, though the specifics varied over centuries. However, this retirement often meant a life of reduced activity, limited purpose, and a loss of the direct, disciplined structure that had defined their entire existence. For men who had known nothing but rigorous military life since childhood, this sudden absence of purpose could be profoundly disorienting, leading to boredom, idleness, and a deep sense of irrelevance. Despite receiving a pension or some privileges, you are a sword that has lost its edge, placed in a velvet sheath, but your spirit still craves the clang of battle. It's like being a highly decorated, elite special forces operator, suddenly forced into early retirement at a desk job, with nothing to do but count paperclips. And you just know your greatest enemy is now the ticking clock. You spend your days in a small house, perhaps in one of Istanbul's quieter districts, far from the bustling barracks and the roar of the drill grounds. The pension you receive, while modest, is enough to keep you fed, but it cannot feed your spirit. Your hands, once accustomed to the weight of a musket or the hilt of a scimitar, now feel strangely empty. There are no more early morning calls to prayer followed by grueling drills. No more long marches across distant lands. No more urgent preparations for battle. The strict routine that defined every waking moment of your life, the discipline that became second nature, is gone. You are free. Yes. But this freedom feels like a vast, empty expanse, a profound absence of purpose. It's like being a highly specialized machine designed for one specific, complex task. And then suddenly, the factory closes, and you're just left in a dimly lit warehouse. Perfectly functional, but completely useless. And you just know your internal operating system is constantly running diagnostics that return no purpose found. You try to fill the endless hours. You might sit by the window, watching the street life unfold, observing families, merchants, and artisans going about their busy lives, lives that are utterly foreign to your own experience. You might visit the mosque for prayers, finding some solace in the familiar rituals. But even there, the connection feels less profound without the shared camaraderie of your Okok brothers. You might try to maintain your skills, cleaning your old musket, practicing a few sword forms in your small courtyard, but the movements are stiff, the strength diminished, and the echoes of past glory only highlight your present uselessness. A fascinating, yet rarely discussed, detail about later Janissary retirement is that as the corps evolved, Some retired Janissaries were granted minor administrative or policing roles within the city, or even became involved in trades and crafts. However, these opportunities were not universal, and for many, retirement still represented a significant loss of status and direct involvement in the imperial machine, often accompanied by a sense of cultural alienation, as civilian life was so different from their upbringing. This means that while some found new roles, many simply faded into the backdrop, their unique skills deemed less relevant in a changing empire. You are a highly specialized tool, and the world is no longer building what you were designed for. Historians still widely debate the psychological effects of sudden inactivity and loss of identity on retired Janissaries, and whether they often struggled with depression, social isolation, or a sense of profound meaninglessness after a life of extreme purpose, suggesting a complex and often overlooked aspect of their brutal existence. For you, Ahmed, the silence of your house is often filled with the agonizing echo of all the battles that are no longer yours to fight, all the orders that are no longer yours to obey. Consider the job of a young, ambitious merchant apprentice, bustling through the city streets, learning the trade, eagerly building a future. He is full of purpose, his days filled with learning, with new opportunities, with the promise of wealth and family. His life is moving forward, expanding. Your life, however, has contracted. Your purpose is gone, your future uncertain beyond the grave. He represents the vibrant, forward-moving pulse of the Ottoman Empire's civilian life, a stark contrast to your stagnant, shrinking world. He builds wealth, you simply exist, a living monument to a past that's slowly being forgotten. It's like being a world-renowned chef who's lost their sense of taste, watching a young, energetic line cook eagerly preparing meals. You understand the craft, but the joy, the purpose, has vanished. And you just know he'll never truly understand what it means to live and die by the Sultan's command. The memories of your glorious past, once a source of pride, now become a bittersweet torment. You remember the roar of battle, the cheers of victory, the camaraderie of your Okak brothers. These vivid recollections serve only to highlight the stark emptiness of your present. You were once a vital cog in the mightiest empire in the world, a feared warrior, a living weapon. Now you are simply an old man, shuffling through quiet streets, remembered perhaps by a few, but largely irrelevant in the grand tapestry of imperial life. The contrast is agonizing, a constant reminder of what you have lost. Social interaction outside the barracks is difficult. You are a Janissary, a unique entity, set apart by your training, your celibacy, your life of war, civilian society, with its families, its trades, its slower rhythms, feels alien to you. You struggle to connect with people who have never known the intensity of battle, the absolute discipline of the corps. Your stories of campaigns and sieges might be met with polite but distant interest. You are an outsider, even in your own city, a ghost walking among the living. The Brotherhood of the Okak, once your entire world, is now dispersed, scattered by time and death. The feeling of being a burden, or simply being in the way, can also emerge. While you receive a pension, you no longer contribute directly to the Empire's expansion or defense. You are a cost, not a contributor. This can be a silent, internal shame, particularly for a man whose entire life was defined by active service and unquestioning obedience. You watch the younger generation, vibrant and full of purpose, and you feel the weight of your own superfluity. The golden cage, while providing material security, becomes a psychological prison. Your body might be free from the demands of war, but your mind is not. It yearns for the structure, the purpose, the adrenaline that defined your past. This yearning, unmet and unfulfilled, leads to a profound sense of restlessness, a constant internal agitation that no amount of quiet contemplation can soothe. You are a lion, pacing in a small, comfortable enclosure, longing for the open plains of the hunt. So, As another day ends in quiet, uneventful routine, you sit by the window, watching the twilight settle over Istanbul. The golden cage of retirement surrounds you, a prison of idleness and irrelevance, built with the very privileges you earned through a lifetime of brutal service. Your retirement plan is not a peaceful retreat. It's a slow, agonizing slide into oblivion. A life stripped of purpose that truly sucked the very essence of meaning from your remaining days. You, Ahmed, the Janissary, are adrift in the golden cage of retirement, plagued by the echoes of a glorious past and the physical aches of a brutal life. Your world, the one you fought for, is slowly changing around you. But even in this quiet, unsettling twilight, a deeper human need stirs beyond the Sultan's gaze. This isn't about grand imperial strategies or the rigid barracks. It's about the quiet, personal search for meaning, for connection, for a fragment of identity that exists outside the all-consuming role of a Janissary, a desperate attempt to reclaim a semblance of self in a world that long ago demanded its complete surrender. A common historical truth is that while Janissaries were culturally assimilated and religiously indoctrinated, the human need for personal identity and purpose often reasserted itself, particularly in old age or periods of peace. Many sought solace in Sufi mysticism, religious study, trade, or even re-engaging with elements of their cultural heritage, attempting to find meaning beyond their military service, which had previously been their sole defining characteristic. You are seeking something beyond the uniform, beyond the duty, a quiet corner of your soul that is still truly your own. It's like being a highly successful corporate CEO who's just retired, and you realize you have no hobbies, no personal life, and no idea who you are without your job title. And you just know that work-life balance thing suddenly sounds appealing. You find yourself drawn to the quiet corners of Istanbul, away from the bustling markets and the grand imperial avenues. Perhaps you wander into a small, unassuming mosque. Not the grand imperial ones, but a local one, where the prayers are softer, the congregation more diverse. You listen to the recitations of the Quran, not as a duty, but as a source of comfort, seeking a deeper spiritual connection that transcends the rigid military interpretation you were taught. You might spend hours simply sitting, meditating on the verses, searching for answers to the profound questions that haunt your idle days. This quiet devotion is a stark contrast to the martial fervor of your youth, a personal journey into faith that is truly yours, not dictated by the demands of the state. Sometimes, you seek out the company of scholars, quiet men with ink-stained fingers and wise eyes. You listen to their discussions on philosophy, on history, on the intricacies of Islamic law. You, who once only understood the logic of the battlefield, now find yourself drawn to the logic of the mind, the endless pursuit of knowledge. You might even attempt to read more, revisiting the texts from your Asamai days, but now with a different purpose, not to serve the Sultan, but to feed your own hungry mind, to understand the world beyond the narrow confines of a soldier's life. This intellectual pursuit offers a new kind of discipline, a new way to engage your powerful, restless intellect. A fascinating, yet rarely discussed, detail about Janissary social integration is that despite their strict military identity, some retired Janissaries or those in non-combat roles were known to engage in Sufi mystical orders, such as the Bektashi order, which had strong ties to the core. These orders offered a spiritual outlet, a sense of community, and a path to personal enlightenment that existed somewhat outside the formal religious establishment, providing a profound sense of belonging and meaning for those seeking it. This means you might find yourself among kindred spirits, men like you searching for a deeper truth, a solace that neither the battlefield nor the palace could ever provide. You're finding your spiritual support group, basically, but with much more chanting and less awkward icebreakers. Historians still widely debate the extent to which Janissaries, particularly those of Christian origin, privately maintained elements of their original cultural or religious heritage, even after conversion. and how this might have manifested in their personal lives or private beliefs as they sought identity beyond their military role, suggesting a complex inner world of hybrid identities. For you, Ahmed, the echoes of your childhood, the whispers of your original name, might resurface in these private moments. A subtle reconnection to a past long buried but never fully erased. Consider the job of a storyteller in a bustling Istanbul coffee house, weaving tales of ancient heroes, mythical creatures, and distant lands. His voice is rich and melodic, his audience captivated by his words, escaping into the realms of imagination. His purpose is to entertain, to connect, to transport. Your life, once an epic saga of its own, is now devoid of such grand narratives. But perhaps you find yourself drawn to his tales, recognizing the human need for stories, for meaning, for a connection to something larger than oneself. You, who once made history, now listen to its whispers, perhaps even sharing a subtle nod of understanding with the storyteller, acknowledging the power of narrative to shape identity. It's like being a grizzled war reporter, now listening to a podcaster recount historical events. And you realize that even in storytelling, there's a different kind of impact. And you just know his audience has no idea what real adventure is. You might seek out a small trade, a craft to occupy your hands and mind. Perhaps carpentry, using the steady rhythm of saw and hammer to create something tangible. Or perhaps you assist a local merchant, finding a new kind of satisfaction in the quiet order of commerce, a world so different from the chaos of war. These simple tasks, once beneath your station as a warrior, now offer a profound sense of grounding, a connection to the rhythms of everyday life that you were denied for so long. They allow you to be useful, to contribute, in a way that is no longer defined by violence. The yearning for human connection, often suppressed during your years of celibacy and military discipline, might also reemerge. While you may never have a traditional family, you might find quiet companionship with other retired Janissaries, sharing stories of battles long past, lamenting the changing times, finding solace in shared experience. Or perhaps you form quiet friendships with shopkeepers, with neighbors, with the ordinary people you once only observed from a distance. These connections, however modest, are a balm to the soul, a re-engagement with the wider tapestry of humanity. This search for meaning beyond the Sultan's gaze is a quiet rebellion, a personal journey to define yourself on your own terms, even in the twilight of your life. It is an acknowledgement that the Janissary identity, while powerful, was ultimately incomplete, leaving a void that craved something more. You are no longer just a weapon, you are a man, wrestling with his past, seeking peace in his present, and perhaps a different kind of salvation for his soul. So, as the sounds of the bustling city fade into the quiet hum of your small dwelling, you sit, perhaps with a book of philosophy, or a small piece of wood you are carving, or simply in quiet contemplation. Beyond the Sultan's gaze, you are finding a new path, a fragile but profound sense of self that exists outside the rigid definitions of duty and war. Your retirement plan might have been a golden cage, but in this quiet, personal quest for meaning, you are slowly, painfully, forging a different kind of freedom. A quiet dignity that truly sucked the last remnants of purposelessness from your weary soul, leaving a fragile but genuine sense of peace and reconnection. You, Ahmed, the Janissary, have weathered the storms of a brutal existence, found fleeting solace in unexpected places, and wrestled with the profound silence of a life stripped of its original purpose. Now, as the final shadows lengthen, you confront the ultimate truth, a legacy of steel and silence. This isn't just about your personal death, it's about the irreversible transformation of the Ottoman Empire, the violent end of the Janissary Corps itself, and the chilling realization that the thunderous roar of your muskets and the fierce loyalty of your brotherhood will ultimately become nothing more than a tragic, silent footnote in history. A common historical truth is that despite their formidable power and long service, the Janissaries eventually became a reactionary force, resisting military reforms and frequently engaging in political intrigues that destabilized the Ottoman Empire. This led to their eventual brutal extermination in 1826 by Sultan Mahmud II in an event known as the Auspicious Incident, marking the end of an era and the complete overhaul of the Ottoman military. Your very existence, and the existence of your beloved Okak, is destined for a violent, definitive end. A final, horrifying chapter written in blood, not glory. It's like being a loyal guard dog that, after years of service, is suddenly deemed too old, too stubborn, and too much of a threat, and then put down, not gently, but with extreme prejudice. And you just know the memory of your fierce loyalty will be buried under a mountain of fear and propaganda. You are old now, truly old. Your body is a constant source of pain. Your mind a repository of bitter memories and fleeting moments of solace. The world outside your quiet dwelling in Istanbul feels increasingly alien. The whispers of reform, once faint, are now a growing clamor. You hear the talk of a new order, of European-style armies, of drilling and tactics that seem utterly foreign to the Janissary way. You've seen glimpses of these new soldiers, their uniforms crisp, their movements precise but lacking the raw, unyielding ferocity that defined your core. You feel a creeping sense of dread, a foreboding that this new direction bodes ill for all that you have known. You recall the countless times the Janissaries stood as the ultimate power in Istanbul, capable of making or breaking sultans. You remember the roar of the Okak in revolt, the swift justice meted out to those who dared to challenge your collective will. This power, once a source of pride and security, has become a double-edged sword. The very discipline and unity that made you invincible now make you an obstacle. A force that the Sultan, if he is truly ambitious, must remove. You are a powerful, immovable object in the path of inevitable change. And immovable objects often get shattered. A fascinating, yet rarely discussed, detail about the Janissaries' final years is that their resistance to reform often stemmed from a desire to protect their traditional privileges and way of life, which had become deeply entrenched over centuries. This wasn't necessarily disloyalty, but a desperate attempt to preserve an identity and a system that they believed was essential to the empire's strength. Even as it became increasingly clear, it was a hindrance. This means your resistance, and the resistance of your brothers, is born not of malice, but of a profound, perhaps misguided sense of loyalty to a fading ideal. You're simply trying to protect what you've always known. But the tide of history is against you. Historians still widely debate whether Sultan Mahmud II's complete extermination of the Janissaries was a necessary, albeit brutal, act for the survival of the Ottoman Empire, or if a more gradual reform could have been achieved without such a devastating loss of life and centuries of military heritage, suggesting a complex ethical dilemma at the heart of their demise. For you, Ahmed, the why becomes less important than the terrifying how, the looming threat that your entire world will be violently extinguished. Consider the job of a young, ambitious European military advisor, freshly arrived in Istanbul, confidently expounding on the superiority of Western military drills and weaponry to the Sultan's eager ears. He sees the Janissaries as an archaic relic, an impediment to progress, a symbol of backwardness. He speaks of efficiency, of modern tactics, of a future devoid of the very traditions that shaped your life. He has no understanding of the devşirme, the lifelong dedication, the brutal forge that created men like you. He is dismantling your world with theories and diagrams, blissfully unaware of the profound personal cost of his progress. It's like being a master swordsmith, watching a young engineer confidently explain that gunpowder and cannons have rendered your life's work obsolete, and you just know he probably still sleeps with a nightlight. The news spreads like wildfire through Istanbul. The Sultan is building a new army, trained in the European manner. The whispers turn to open discussions, then to defiant murmurs within the Janissary ranks. The Okak begins to stir, a sleeping giant awakening, its collective anger simmering. You hear the familiar calls for a march on the palace, the old trusted response to any perceived threat to your privileges. But this time, something feels different. The Sultan's resolve seems harder, his preparations more extensive. The air is thick with tension, a suffocating premonition of the storm to come. Then, it happens. The auspicious incident. Not a battle on a distant field, but a massacre in the very heart of Istanbul. The Janissaries marching on the palace are met not by a defiant sultan, but by overwhelming artillery fire. The new army, trained by European methods, turns its cannons on your brothers, trapping them in the barracks, turning the very symbol of your power into a death trap. The roar of the cannons, the screams of the dying, the terrifying chaos. It's a nightmare beyond anything you experienced on the battlefield. You perhaps are too old to fight, watching from a distance, or perhaps you are caught in the fringes of the violence, witnessing the wholesale slaughter of your core, your family, your entire way of life. The smoke clears to reveal a horrifying sight. The barracks are in ruins, strewn with the bodies of your comrades. Those who resisted are hunted down, publicly executed, their bodies displayed as a grim warning. The very name Janissary is outlawed, cursed, erased from official history. Your unique identity, forged in fire and steel over centuries, is summarily obliterated. The traditions, the songs, the very memory of your deeds are suppressed, replaced by the narrative of a necessary cleansing. A violent break from a corrupt past. You are a survivor. But survival now means living in a world that denies your very existence. You are forced to renounce your identity, to shed your uniform, to hide your past. Your legacy of steel, once feared and respected, is now silenced, buried under the weight of imperial propaganda and the relentless march of a new era. The thunderous roar of the Janissary charge is replaced by the eerie silence of a forgotten age, a quiet shame for those who remember. So, as the sounds of rebuilding fill the air of Istanbul, and the new army drills with unfamiliar rhythms, you sit, a ghost in a city that no longer acknowledges your kind. The legacy of steel and silence is your bitter inheritance, a chilling testament to the brutal truth that even the most formidable forces can be swept away by the relentless current of history. Your retirement plan was not just a personal end, it was the violent, absolute erasure of your entire identity. A devastating historical shift that truly sucked the very memory of your existence from the annals of a quiet, forgotten past.